Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, it's the Buccaneers squad. Everything Tampa Bay Buccaneers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the Sunshine State, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. With a touch of the Buccaneer way, the Buccaneer Squad Show starts now.
What's up, Buccaneers fans? I'm your host, Jaron Spor. This is our Bucs Squad Show. I'm going to tell you why I think the Bucs are legit Super Bowl contenders.
And I'm Marcus Ray, former Oakland Raider, Michigan All-American. And I'm going to tell you why I think Antoine Winfield Jr. got robbed of 2 touchdowns.
And I'm James Yarcho, host of Locked On Bucs, and I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't be overly concerned with Baker Mayfield's recent struggles.
All right, and before we get into everything, we got to tell you, today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Well, we got to get into this thing, but before, let's kind of let people know what this is. This is a new squad show. It's a lot of fun. It is not going to take away from James's normal Locked On Bucs, so do not worry. You will still see him 5 days a week, and then obviously in his post game. This is just another fun extra content to the channel where we get to just talk some sports. But let's break down the Bucs' big win over the Saints right before the bye week. Marcus, let's start with you. What was kind of your takeaways from the game? You mentioned Antoine Winfield, which I kind of agree with you on that take.
I think what the Bucs showed was that defense wins championships, and when you play complementary football, if you can score on defense, create turnovers, especially while your offense is struggling, giving up sacks, barely running the football, and struggling on third down, then you'll see guys like Anthony Nelson popping out. You know, it's the NFL. So for me, it's the next man up, and the expectation is for the position and not the person.
Yeah, it's so frustrating watching this team sometimes because you have the offense that's going off and the defense is bleeding yards and bleeding points. And it seems like we've had this complete reversal where now all of a sudden the offense can't get anything going and the defense looks fantastic. But you mentioned the next man up, and you look at guys like Kalijah Kancey, who is out for the rest of the season. 5th round pick Elijah Roberts has stepped up in a huge, huge way. You've had Zion McCollum miss time. You've had Benjamin Morrison miss time. You've had Jamel Dean miss time. And all of these guys continue to come in and step up. I mean, you had Kendall Vildor stepping up in a huge way against the 49ers. So I think it's a credit to Jason Light and Todd Bowles and the rest of the staff there that they're finding these guys, you know, undrafted or in these late rounds that even though they're practice squad, they're coming in and they're being difference makers when their number gets called. So it's really a credit to their ability to find these guys that could probably be on a lot of other 53-man rosters, but instead they're just, you know, going up and going back down and going up and going back down. But, you know, every single player on this roster is contributing in some way.
Yeah, I'm glad you both brought up the defense because it kind of has felt like what you mentioned, James, all year. They just kind of been the weaker of the units. But in this game against the Saints, it felt like that defensive touchdown by Anthony Nelson was going to be the game winner because it didn't feel like the Saints could do anything offensively, which has not been the case for the Buccaneers. And that was one thing you mentioned, how all these players are stepping up. He was another one, and he was incredible in the game, stepping up. And he ended up having 2 sacks, had the touchdown that I mentioned, 4 total tackles. I was just really impressed by the defense as a whole because it's kind of gotten to the point when you watch them, it's like, this is going to usually be a shootout, and that's not the case at all in this one.
And like when he got the first punch out, like the first turnover, it's like his performance almost saved the Bucs and gave him a chance. I mean, and then when he gets the pick 6, you know, you talk about being stopped. You know how demoralizing it is for an offense to have a 4 and out, 4 shots at a touchdown, and to get stopped, and then you turn around and you score that way. I mean, what it does for the team, it just revitalizes them. And then you got a guy like Baker playing injured. So when you can't really run the ball that well, the one thing that when I was in the NFL, you always heard this one key phrase, get the 3, get the 3, get the 3. And they're talking field goals. Now, in college football, you know, there's probably more touchdowns being scored. But in the NFL, when you can knock in long field goals and create turnovers, big splash plays, I think it demoralized the Saints even more when they got a goal line stand, if you will, and then give up a pick six and they're turning the ball over. That's championship football, and I think that's what the Bucs found out about themselves in that last one.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is about Anthony Nelson. He has a knack for these kinds of like huge plays in these moments. You go back to last season, the Bucs are on the verge of losing to the Carolina Panthers in overtime. And Nelson is the one that ends up getting the forced fumble and is able to kind of turn the game around for them in that situation after they had already lost a couple of overtime games. But Marcus, something that I'm curious to ask you about is, you know, and you kind of teased it, the Antoine Winfield Jr. being robbed of 2 touchdowns. He would have been the 12th player in NFL history to have an interception return for a touchdown and a fumble recovery for a touchdown in the same game. What are you seeing from the officiating standpoint, you know, not just in this game particularly, but across the NFL? Like it seems to be so wildly inconsistent, and no one can seem to figure out how to get this, you know, how to get this ship righted.
I think that's a fair question. Well, in the case of Winfield on that first one, it was an inadvertent whistle. And the funny thing about it is when they replayed it, the live sound, we still didn't hear the whistle. And I mean, it was a clear punch out, I believe, by Dean. Johnny on the spot, Winfield's right there, he scoops it up. I didn't realize he was that fast the way he turned the corner. It looked like a running back. You know, I played against his father at Ohio State and also in the NFL too. So it's good to see safeties, my former position, making those plays. But when that happened, it kind of gave you a sense that the officials were going to err on the side of let's keep this one close. I mean, because if the Bucs score there, I mean, it kind of breaks the game wide open. But it's just one of those things where I don't know if these guys are new, these officiating crews, or they're not used to working with each other, or I just can't figure it out. But it is very inconsistent. And you're seeing more coaches and players, you know, speaking out. And you know, I'm a college commentator too, so we're really not allowed to question calls. We can give our opinion, and you could even hear the commentators in that one saying, "I just don't think that's a good call." And then the play-by-play guy says, "Yeah, but nevertheless, we're going to move on to the next play." But it's just been wild to see the inconsistency in the officiating.
Yeah. Yeah, and the weird thing about that was, like you mentioned, we ended up hearing the replay with the stadium sound. You still can't hear it. And it didn't seem like any of the players even heard a whistle because Saints players were still going after him full speed. Usually you'll see some guys kind of drop back because they heard a whistle. So that was one of the weirdest things I had ever seen because there was no whistle. The players didn't act like there was a whistle. I don't know what that was, really, honestly. I'm still, you know, we're a couple days out from the game, still wondering what happened on that play. But ultimately, when it happened and it first happened, I was like, is that what's going to end up biting them? Because how many times have we seen that where a team kind of gets robbed on a call and that's the deciding factor at the end of the game? You lose by 3 or lose by 4 or something like that, and you could have won the game with a touchdown there.
And then to make matters worse, you turn around and give up a sack. Chase Young, you know, gets the sack, strip sack. He picks it up and he's trying to run around with the football, and then it ends up being basically a 10-point swing because the Saints got the field goal off of that. And basically we have a ball game, but 14-0, 7-3, 2 totally different ball games. And I'm glad you said that. Nobody stopped play. Nobody stopped play. I mean, like you said, if there would have been a whistle, somebody would have pulled back and stopped. But that's why you play through every play, because sometimes they miss it, sometimes they blow the whistle, sometimes they don't. But I was very surprised that was the conclusion at the end of the play, that it was a turnover, but it was an inadvertent whistle by the official.
Well, and then they almost doubled down when Antoine gets an interception and he gets a quick whistle. They don't even let that one play out to go to review to see if he was down by contact, which he wasn't. By the time he gained possession of the ball, he was not touched by Chris Olave. So that was another touchdown. You would have thought in that moment, it's like, okay, we screwed up the first time. Let's see how this one goes. And then we can go back and we can review it and change it if we need to. But instead they were like, nope, forget it. Antoine, you should have had 2. Instead you get none. Bucs get the ball. It's so wild to me how bad officiating has gotten. And I think the sports betting world has put a magnifying glass on this unlike anything before. Like, we know refs aren't perfect. We know they're going to make mistakes and there's going to be bad calls. But I think it's so magnified now because of the sports betting world that, you know, they have to figure out something to get this figured out, at least get it more consistent than it is.
Yeah, that interception, man. I mean, when they blew the whistle so fast, I was thinking like, okay, you're telling me that the fumble recovery for a touchdown was a late whistle. Now this pick six, you're not even going to let it play out and just blow the whistle. I mean, do you understand that these contracts do have incentives in them? If this man has 2 defensive touchdowns in the game, there's no telling what his bonus is. Now you're putting them in the conversation for defensive player of the year. And you know, if the Bucs play out, and so there's accolades and so there's a lot of things that these officials are affecting. I played with one of the greatest, Charles Woodson, and he called me after the game and was like, hey, that guy right there probably, you know, would have had one of the greatest games you ever seen on top of what Nelson did. It just became a 3 defensive touchdowns. I mean, Todd Bowles now looks like more of a defensive genius than people believe he is already. So guys on defense don't appreciate when stuff gets nullified, especially when it's not clear. It's like what happened, and when that whistle blows, it's just out of their hands.
Yeah, it could cost a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, and also, how many times have we heard the rules expert come on and say, hey, the officials are taught to let the play out because we can always go back and review it, and then we can call it dead or whatever. And for them to do it twice, it's like one time, like, okay, like, should have happened, but it sucks, but oh well. But for it to happen twice when they've always told us, hey, they are taught to let it play out, and neither time did they let it play out.
Yeah, I just really, thought, I'm a defensive guy by trade, and I'm like, that was a defensive party. I mean, 3 defensive touchdowns. You're talking about 4 turnovers. I mean, that right there for even their coordinators to be like assistant coaches of the year. I mean, this stuff matters. And then I know what you said, James. Now, that's sports betting. I mean, the whole world is breathing down everybody's necks on these over-unders and bad beats. And, hey, man, that's 21 points. And next thing you know, and people start, using social media to attack. And it's like, oh, man, like, just get it right. And I think, too, like, I think this should get to the point where the touchdown should count. If nobody stopped playing, then that counts as a touchdown. I always thought, what would happen if somebody was returning a punt and a guy stuck his leg out from the sideline and the guy was running by himself and somebody just ran and tackled him? Is that a touchdown, or do you spot the ball right there? Like, if it's clear and everybody's still playing, let the man have his touchdown.
Yeah. Instead, they'll spot the ball with a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and then who knows where it goes from there. But yeah, this is a game that I think the Bucs should have won, 41-3 if the offense could have gotten anything at all going. And I know we're going to talk about Baker in a little bit, but this is 2 weeks in a row now where the defense has held up their end of the bargain. I know they lost to Detroit, and that's a tough place to play. That's a tough team to defend. But the defense has done their part. Now we need to get the offense back on track after the bye week so that they can finally play a complete game on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the offense hasn't played great the last 2 weeks, but that should be why people really think they're a Super Bowl contender, because we know the offense can play well, and they've had a lot of injuries, and the whole team's had a lot of injuries. We'll get to that too, but they're going to get some guys back, and we know the ceiling of this offense. The question has always been the defense, in my opinion, and for them to play well the last 2 weeks, that should give Bucs fans a lot of excitement.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so too. You get the bye week. If they ever put 4 quarters together where both sides show up with all this playmaking and talent with a healthy roster, it could get ugly in January.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, is Baker Mayfield hurt or more injured than what they're actually saying, or is it an actual slump? We'll talk about that coming next. Well, let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, we're back with another segment. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. As James mentioned, he hasn't played as well the last 2 weeks. The offense hasn't played as well as a whole. Marcus, what are you seeing from Baker? Is it they're slumping? Maybe the defense have started to figure some things out. Maybe it's all the injuries around him. Maybe it's a little bit of everything.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, number one, when you start to get to midseason, you have to realize that you're on tape. You are on tape, so people now can game plan you, scheme up, what you're doing offensively. I think Baker started off red hot, and especially against the Seahawks in that win, you go 29 of 33. But when you start to have injuries, you lose continuity in the offense combined. I mean, when you look at having 3 receivers being out, talking about Evans and guys like that. Well, when your offensive line starts to get out of sync with injuries, now those guys, talking about communication, shuffling right and left. I think the right side of the offensive line looked like they were struggling a lot in the last 2 games. But I think for Baker, I think he is injured and he's playing hurt. I don't think he's practicing much. Just when your quarterback's injured and you're still going to start him, it's almost like resting a pitcher's arm. So I'm sure he's taking mental reps. He understands the game plan. He is Baker Mayfield at the end of the day. But I also think when you can't run the ball and when you have 88 yards rushing and then 41 the week before, a lot of pressures on an injured quarterback. So I just think the timing and the offense is out of sync. You have a lot of guys just out there that aren't used to being out there together. But he still made some amazing throws. I mean, when you see him roll right and throw left and, across the middle and, accurate passes on the sideline, he's still defeating tight coverage. And I think that the week off, basically it's going to be 2 weeks. When you think about no game this week and you get ready for the Patriots, I think he's going to be ready to go. But I think they're not asking him to win the game like Sunday when the defense won it. They're just asking him, don't lose it and don't get injured any worse. So I just think that I don't think he's slumping. I think he's playing injured, and I think that the pass protection hasn't been great, and there's no running game. Bucky's out. White's trying to do his thing, Shepard. But at the same time, when you don't have all the pieces, they're starters for a reason. And so when you don't have your one in there, then I just think things are going to be hard.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. You take a look. I think it's the struggles have come from so many different factors. The biggest one is that Baker is playing hurt, and he pops up on the injury report with an oblique injury. Well, a quarterback with an oblique injury, you're not going to have the same velocity. You're not going to have the same touch. Your throws are going to be off a little bit. But on top of that, it is the offensive line issues. It's the problems on the right side. Without Luke Gedeke, you don't have Cody Mauch for the rest of the year. And Graham Barton has struggled. This was a guy that a lot of people projected as a, Pro Bowl level center, and maybe he's not that. Maybe he's not going to be that guy. Even Tristan Wirfs had arguably the worst game that we have ever seen him have going against Chase Young. But it's an issue of you don't have Bucky. And while Rashad and Sean Tucker have done a decent job in his absence, that when you have those problems in the trenches and you're not able to get one, you had 7 cracks at 1 yard and you can't get one. those problems are cumulative. And then you add to that the receiver issues. Look, I love Emeka Egbuka. I think he is the future of the Buccaneers. I think he is the Mike Evans of the next generation for the Bucs fans. But when you don't have Godwin or Jalen McMillan out there, and Tez Johnson is just now starting to come on, he's not garnering the attention that Chris Godwin would, or Jalen McMillan would, or obviously Mike Evans would. So defenses can focus all their efforts on Emeka Egbuka and force you to beat them with Shep or Tez or Cam Johnson or Ryan Miller or Cade Otton. So I think it's just kind of all of these things hitting them at once is affecting their ability to do what they want to do and what they're capable of doing offensively.
I'm going to add one more thing to that. When you have an oblique injury, we're talking about like the side of your body, right? That's your obliques. Like, okay, you got to think you're a quarterback. I mean, Baker earlier in the season made some plays with his feet to actually win games and get 4 first downs and clutch moments. So if he's injured, you don't even want him getting – he got sacked 4 times. So you're thinking like, well, how many shots do you want him to really take? That's why also Tampa didn't run a lot of plays. I mean, almost less than 60, I believe. So I think they're trying to shorten the game for Baker. I don't think he wants to get out of there and run and do what he can do and has done. You don't want him taking a shot if it's unnecessary. So I think he's holding on to the ball in some cases. I actually think number 60, Jordan, I think he's struggling a little bit too in pass protection, and so are the running backs. I mean, you can watch when that pocket collapse, but they just don't want Baker to get hit, and he doesn't want to scramble, because if he scrambles with that banged up body and he gets caught from the side, then it could be a disaster. So I think it all kind of goes together.
Yeah, and there was a play in the Saints game when he ended up getting sacked. And when they kind of got around him, you're like, okay, Baker's going to get out of this. He's done it so many times this year, and he just wasn't really able to move, and he got sacked. And that's the first time I was like, okay, I think he is more injured than what they're actually saying. But also, as you mentioned, I think Egbuka really probably isn't 100%, but is fighting through it because of all the wide receiver injuries. And so not having him at full strength is also hurting Baker. Because Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson, if they're your wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 6, you're very happy, in my opinion. But right now they're having to be your wide receiver 2 and 3 because of all the injuries. And that's just what they've been dealt with. And hopefully they get a lot of these guys back in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I think there's some things that I would say maybe he's slumping with because his accuracy's kind of been up and down. But even in this game, I didn't see the fire that we usually see from Baker. And that usually is a tell that, okay, he's probably hurting. Because there was times like usually he had a run, or, they didn't convert it down. You would see him be angry about it or start talking trash or something. And you just didn't see that as much. So I think the oblique injury, maybe the knee injury as well, are all kind of playing a factor, which that means the bye week came at a perfect time, in my opinion.
Even that, I would say the Detroit game, he 28 of 50. I mean, he didn't throw the ball, 56%. That's just not what you want. But I also think the fact that they can't run the ball very well and sustain drives and really finish drives, like when you're going 4 of 16 on third down and 3 of 13, you're almost not even out there that long to even produce. And so when you get those opportunities or you sustain drives, I just think part of not being able to run the ball too, like the Bucs have to basically pick their poison. What do you want to do? Have him throw it 50 times, or do you want to run the ball 27 times and have him throw it 30? And so I think as they game plan through these injuries, I like how you guys complimented, Tez and those guys stepping up. Egbuka, he's a special kind of guy now. I mean, he's one of one. So him playing through the hamstring, still having 5 touchdowns, and he's I think 7th or 8th in the league or something in yards. I mean, he's still out there, but you just can't manufacture players. You have to go with who you have. There's a roster. The injured reserve, I mean, when I scrolled through that list, I said, who's left? I mean, thank goodness you got practice squad players still too.
Well, and I think the other thing that plays into this is we are talking about, for the 3rd year in a row for Baker Mayfield in Tampa, a new offensive coordinator and a first-time play caller. So Grizz is having to work these things out in real time as well. And I've seen a lot of criticisms on social media, on the live chats here on live shows, that Grizz isn't calling a good game or he's over his head or this, that, and the other thing. This isn't the offense that Grizzard wanted to put on the field, right? He was planning on an offense with at least Abuka and Evans and Jalen McMillan to start the season. Well, Jalen McMillan gets a hospital ball from Teddy in a preseason game, and he's out until December. Mike Evans breaks his collarbone. Chris Godwin finally comes back, and then he's out again 2 weeks later. So this is not the offense that the Bucs are going to have moving forward. And I think it's a credit to Grizzard for finding a way to, as a first-time play caller, get the offense to be good enough to win most of these games and do it in a fashion where they're having to score in the final minute of a game. His 2-minute drill is elite. Might be the best offensive coordinator in the NFL in the final 2 minutes of a game. So I think it's important for people to keep that in mind of, there's only so much you can do with the pieces that you have right now, but you get through this if you get at least Bucky or Godwin back for that game against the Patriots, it starts to change the way that this offense looks.
Well, and I'll also tell you too, like, everybody was concerned about the defense, and when you look at how Detroit schemed the Bucs up, I mean, they really did, ran some like deep crossing routes and man coverage, and screen game was nice, and Detroit's a pretty good football team. I think the Bucs caught a break by getting the Saints 2 nights ago, man, because if they would have played the Patriots that day, I'm not sure if they would have been able to pull it off with all those injuries. So I think they're also, they got lucky with this, how this thing is playing out. You're still in first place. Then you get 2 weeks to go play against a revamped Patriot squad. It's physical and making plays. So because they played the Saints and still got another win, and they didn't even play well offensively, I think that gave them some confidence too, because I just don't think they would have been ready to fight with New England Sunday night.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, because after you go through a tough matchup against Detroit, you're probably not ready to play a team like that. But the thing is, with all these injuries that they've had and the defense not playing great, then playing great the last 2 weeks, and the offense kind of struggling, you're 6-2 at the bye week. I mean, if you would have been told all this stuff before the season, as a Bucs fan, you would be ecstatic about it. And that kind of goes back to my statement in the last segment about why I think they're a legit Super Bowl team, is because if you do just get some of these guys back, you're already proven to be a good team. And, one of your losses is a 6-point loss to Philadelphia. So it's not like that was a blowout in Philadelphia, obviously the defending Super Bowl champs. So you prove that you can play with just about anyone in the league. And that was with all these injuries, or, at least a lot of the injuries. And so if you can just get some of these guys back, I mean, this season could be a really special one in Tampa Bay.
Well, and you used to break the season up into quarters, right? 4-game sections. Can't do that exactly anymore, but you're talking about 3-1 in the first 4, 3-1 in the second 4. You're talking about a team that's on pace to go 13-4. Now, will they? I'm not sure, because, Marcus, you already talked about they have the Patriots come out of the bye. Well, then they have the Buffalo Bills, and then they have the Los Angeles Rams. So they have got to get healthy. And again, Jaron, I know you've said it numerous times, but this bye could not have come at a better time for this team, because you're not winning those 3 games in a row if you don't start getting some of these guys back. If the team that was the offense, at least, that was out there against the Saints is the same one that's out there against the Patriots, it's bad news. Same with the Bills, and then probably worse news if you're going up against a Rams team that just got Puka Nacua back, and you don't have your allotment of weapons.
And my biggest question going into this bye week is going to be about what players come back from the injury report. And that's something we're going to talk about, because as we mentioned, there's several out, and we're going to even talk about which ones we think are the most important to come back to the team. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is where I always go to place all my parlays, my prop bets, my game bets for just about every sport. It definitely adds a little bit of extra fun to your NFL Sundays. The Buccaneers are entering the bye week at 6-2 and are now sitting at minus 550 to win the NFC South. They are also plus 120 to win 12 games, minus 1,200 to make the playoffs, but they're all the way down to plus 3,000 to win the Super Bowl. They're trailing teams like the 49ers, Colts, Patriots, Chargers, Seahawks, and even the Baltimore Ravens. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, so let's talk about those injuries. As Marcus said, I looked at the injury report as well, and it's like 20 guys on there. I've literally never seen anything like it. Let's talk about the players that have been on that list. Which ones do you think are the most important, other ones that obviously can still come back this year? Marcus, we'll start with you. Who is most important on that list?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, I think the obvious would be Mike, but he's, it's no telling with that. I mean, but the guys that I think, I would say Bucky Irvin, number one.
Yeah.
I think Bucky has to come back, and I think that'll take some pressure off of Baker, and I really think it'll help in pass protection. I mean, he's shown that he will step up in there and block. I think he's a good screen guy. He might have got that yard. I mean, that you're talking about, James. I just think Bucky would have got it. I mean, he's RB1 for a reason. So I think you start with him, and then I would like to see Godwin. I mean, I watched him when he was in college. I was on another network covering him for years, and I just thought to myself, like, I think this guy's pretty good if he can stay healthy, So, and he showed flashes, but I just think you need another weapon. And I think he's one. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Luke Haggard. I mean, just for depth on the offensive line. If another guy goes down up front, I mean, you might have to put a tight end at tackle or something, move some guys around. But I would say those three probably like off the top. I'll probably stay more offensive minded with injuries. I think defense, they can be okay with the guys that are out, but definitely Bucky, man. Because I just think when you have your guy back there, things just go your way. And I think guys play different when they have a lot of more confidence in each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree that they desperately need Bucky back. And I love Rashad. I love Sean Tucker. But Bucky adds a different element, right? He adds that explosive playability. And that's not really part of Rashad's game, right? Rashad's more of kind of that strength back. And usually he does get that yard. And as important as he is, as important as Chris Godwin is, I think the most important guy to come back for the Bucs has got to be Luke Gedeke. Going down in week 2 against the Houston Texans, and God love him, he's doing the best he can, and he has had moments where he's looked pretty good, but Charlie Heck just is not helping this offensive line right now. And I think even if Bucky doesn't come back immediately, but you have Gedeke out there, that's going to help the run game. It's going to help the pass protection. It's going to start to open some things up for Josh Grizzard to be able to open the playbook up a little bit more. It's like he's got one hand tied behind his back right now because of how poor the protection has been. And so getting him back, I think, is a huge, huge part. I agree with you on Luke Haggard. Michael Jordan looked really solid the first couple of weeks. He goes down with injury. He hasn't looked like the same guy since he's come back. And I think he's still pushing through that injury that he came back from, and the bye week's going to help him get a little bit healthier. But they have got to figure out this offensive line. And I think bringing back your starting right tackle is going to go a really long way in every facet of what this offense is capable of.
I also think Hassan Reddick, if they can find a way to get him back to, I really like his ability to rush inside, outside, and they all play off of each other pretty well. I know they have some guys step up, but I think Reddick will help in their pass rush, a little bit in the run game too. But Big Gedeke, though, yeah, got to get him back, man. Like,
Yeah.
Heck really struggled. I mean, let's just be honest, man. I'm watching the game and I'm thinking to myself, like, I played in this league, though, James. I played in this league and I was a backup. But at the same time, it's like if they ever threw me in, I wasn't going to be as good as Eric Turner, rest in peace, or some of these other guys, but I still had to give. I was still a pro.
Yeah.
So, if you're getting paid to play this game, that is a job. And that's why I told y'all the expectation is for the position. It's not the player. You can't say, well, that's not our guy. You have to block him, heck. You have to help us out because I'll tell you what, when they started running stunts where Chase Young goes up and under and a delayed linebacker blitz, poor Baker had to get out of there, and trying to run and then, throw the ball all over the place. But I think Reddick will help him out on D. I think Gedeke on the line, Haggard, and then Bucky.
Yeah, you guys took Bucky. I think we're all in agreement that Bucky's probably the most important one. I'm going to kind of cheat just because I want to see it. I want to see the three receivers back. I want to see Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan, and mostly because you put those three with a Buka and then Sterling Shepard, and then even if Tez Johnson, if they kept 6 wide receivers, I just want to see what that offense looks like. I think it'd be a lot of fun as a Buccaneers fan because I was thinking about this before the season, obviously knowing Chris was injured but was going to come back before the Jalen injury happened. And it was like, I don't remember seeing a wide receiver room that looked like this in the NFL, at least not in a long time. And I was getting super excited for the season to start. And then, of course, McMillan goes down, then Evans goes down, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to kind of cheat and say those three guys just because I want to see an offense with that receiver core.
I'm gonna give you guys one more. Keep Baker off the IR list. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I'm just thinking, like, man, he's playing banged up. You got a couple of weeks to get ready. James, you already said who they have coming up next, and it's like, okay. And then when you do get your weapons back, when they do finally, hopefully, get back full strength, I think they're going to go on a run, man. And like, if they can win without their guys and just find a way, but you also have to remember that defense might not do that every week. They might not be able to create 4 turnovers and score twice and score once and have 2 more off the board. But if that's what it takes to win, that's why they say all 3 phases, you have to play off of each other. It's called complementary football. To talk special teams. If you don't make those field goals too, it's still a relatively close game. So the defense and the special teams has to carry the load until the offense figures out a way to get those weapons back.
Yeah, and Jaron, to your point, it was something that I said numerous times leading up to training camp, and I pissed off Bengals fans and Eagles fans and Rams fans that the Buccaneers had the best wide receiver room in the NFL, and people were going nuts. Oh, Jamar and T are better than Evans and Godwin and yada. Well, first off, I would never, ever, ever take T Higgins over Chris Godwin in any situation. Jamar Chase is the second best receiver in the NFL. Sure, fine, I'll give you that. Yeah. But people were going nuts, and I was like, look, I'm not talking about the top duos. I'm talking about the best rooms. There is no team in the NFL, when all these guys are back, that can line up 4 wide and do the kind of damage that the Buccaneers can do with Mike, Chris, Ibuka, and J-Mac. They just can't. And one of the things that I was the most excited about, and Jaron, this might lead into what you were so excited about, is seeing all these receivers back. Think about what Grizz can do if you can spread out the defense with those 4 wide and you still got Bucky behind you. The running lanes that guy is going to have and all that open space in the second level, that is a home run waiting to happen at any given moment. So that's what I was so excited about. Now, who knows if we're ever going to see that? I mean, best case scenario, Mike's coming back, week 16, week 17, and then he would only need like 300 yards a game to get 1,000. But the ability to get all of them back and at least get 1 game under their belt before the playoffs, when they can really show these other defenses looks that they hadn't seen from the Bucs all year long, that's a really, really intriguing thought.
And then I'll tell you too, man. You start putting Otten too. I mean, Cade is playing well. I mean, you talking about the big three at receivers, and then you still have Cade slipping through the cracks and making plays. You know, when you talk about the spread offense, if you go 11 personnel with him in the game, but if you go 4 wides, I don't know if there's a secondary that can match up with them and just play straight one-on-one and say, you have nowhere to go with the ball, Baker. So it's like one of those things where it's like, if this was basketball, it's like, all right, they got 5 guys that can shoot or do all of this. I don't know if we got 5 defenders that can really line up. I don't think people want to see the Bucs fully loaded, healthy, with all those guys ready to go. And I mean, especially with Grizz. And I'm just thinking, don't sleep on the tight end too, man. He made some plays and he's been catching that football. And I'm talking about like 10 yards a pop catching it, not little dinks and dunks. He's actually getting yards too. So he could be a weapon.
Yeah. And I don't think he's talked about enough among like some of the best tight ends. He's under the radar, in my opinion, Cade Otton, because he is very solid. He's like Mr. Reliable, honestly, out there. Now, I do want to bring up some of the comments. A lot of people in the comments section were bringing up the line, understandably so, that's who they want to get back. One of the funny ones that I saw is Baker says, "What the heck, every game running for his life." I thought that was a pretty good representation of what's happening out there. But yeah, I am a little bit surprised, but then I know NFL fans that you kind of got flack for saying they have the best receiver room because like you said, it is not, you aren't saying the best duo. Because if you want to say there's a better duo than Evans and Ibuka or Evans and Godwin, fine. Like there are probably ones out there. But 1 through 4, 1 through 5, again, I haven't seen one in the last several years that I think matches up with that 1 through 5.
I think the closest that you'll get is the 2020 Buccaneers when you had Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, and then you want to throw Gronk in there too. Like that's as close as you're going to get to the ability to just manufacture mismatches to that level. Because you could take Evans and Godwin, who have been a 1 and a 2 in this league for years. You could take Ibuka and McMillan, who could be a 1 and a 2 on a lot of different teams right now. And you have all 4 of them together. This offense, why can't they be healthy? This offense could be so unbelievable. And it's one hit after another.
And I'll tell you too, man, if you do get everybody back, Baker will turn into like John Stockton. I mean, he'll just be just dishing, and then it's like playing Golden State where everybody can shoot the 3. It's like they'll take you up top. I mean, runaway routes. And then Bucky can catch the ball out the backfield too. So when you have a tight end, a receiving back who can do both, and then you get your deep threats, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, the NFL right now is I think everybody's keeping a close eye because I think they silently agree with us that the Bucs do have the deepest and best wide receiving core in the National Football League. They just won't admit it. It's an ego league. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to say anybody's better than anybody, but they know. And Ibuka, I'm telling you, he could take a game over, man. I mean, he had 163 a few weeks ago. It's like if any of them at any given day can take off. And if Baker's healthy and those guys are scheming up and getting open, it's going to be a long day for a lot of defenses, man.
Yeah, Ibuka had to keep one up in his former teammate in JSN, who's one of the hottest receivers in the NFL this year. But, yeah, I'd have to look. I don't know how many more. Well, I mean, the next game, the Patriots. Every time Ibuka has faced one of his Ohio State offensive teammates this year, the Bucs have beat him. Beat Stroud, beat JSN, beat Garrett Wilson, beat Chris Olave. Travion Henderson, you're up next, man. Like, I'll call it now. Bucs by 10.
I like that. Hey, and if there's one silver lining about not seeing this offense at full strength, maybe it means we actually get to keep an offensive coordinator more than a year.
I like that too. That would be nice.
Yeah, you got to find some of the positives out here. I mean, we got to find something. All right, coming up next, we're going to grade the Bucs start to the season. Their 6-2 start, heading into the bye week. We'll do that after the break.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, so we're back for one final segment. Like I said, the Bucs 6-2 heading into the bye week. Marcus, what kind of grade would you give the team overall? And if you want to do offense, defense too, go for it.
Overall, I'm going to say a solid B. I'm talking like a nice little 85, somewhere in there. And I say that because they haven't had a cupcake schedule. I mean, they played some tough teams. When you look at the Detroit game, I know the defense to me didn't really tackle well, and Detroit made some plays. But when you look at you take away a couple of explosives, and then I thought Detroit made a couple of plays, knocking like pass breakups in the end zone. Like I almost want to call it luck, but it's the NFL, and those guys are getting paid too. But I think one was to Cade in the back of the end zone, and it was 24-9, man, and they were about to score. The Bucs were there, and it's like they were just like 5 plays away from that being a different ball game. So you play the defending Super Bowl champs, you lose by 6 points. You beat San Fran, Seattle. Overall, I think Bowles and company gets a B from me. I think offensively, I probably go with a C+. They didn't pass the midterm exam on Sunday, so their score dropped a little bit. But at the same time, man, I mean, special teams, if you want to factor that in there, I mean, McLaughlin, he's doing what he has to do. I think he might have missed one extra point or something, but I mean, he's got a lot of points. Overall, I give him a B. Defense, I'm going to give him just a C. I don't think they play great, but they've done some good things. As a team, B. Special teams, A-. Well, I don't know about that one punt return, but yeah. So I'm just going through all the games, but I'm just sitting here thinking, man, 6-2, first place in the National Football League. You definitely have a passing grade, and I'm gonna give them a B+ overall. And that's factoring in how they're winning and where, and the fact that they don't even have all their guys, and they're still finding a way. At the end of that quarter, the 0-0, they've won 6 times and only lost twice.
Yeah, I would give them an A-. And I totally understand where you're coming from with the solid B. But when I take a look at this team, and we've covered it extensively on this show alone, the amount that they've overcome to be where they are, I think deserves an extra credit, amount of homework points here. You go back to Baker's first 2 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Bucs were 6-9 in one-score games. They're 4-1 in one-score games this year. And I think that shows a lot of the growth of where they are versus where they were. And then you talk about the fact that they played 0 games with their top 3 receivers on the field together this year, and they only have 1 game all season with 2 of their top receivers plus Bucky Irving. Wow. So when you take a look at all of those factors and you think, okay, they've won close games against the Falcons, okay, but the Falcons are kind of all over the place, but the Falcons boat raced the Bills. So it's that any given Sunday thing. The defense tried to blow a game against the Jets, but they found a way to win. They found a way to win on primetime, which is not something that they've been able to do when they won in Houston against a team that they blew a huge lead against just a couple of years ago. and you start putting all that together and you think, okay, this team is still going to get better when they get their pieces back. I think they absolutely are Super Bowl contenders, and playing with basically a deck that's missing 3 kings, 2 queens, and 2 aces to be where they are. I think that deserves an A-.
Yeah, I actually split the difference between y'all because I was going B plus, and
Okay.
I was going B plus for for a lot of the same things that you mentioned, James, just because of the degree of difficulty. I mean, they had a tough schedule, like Marcus mentioned, but all the injuries that they've had to overcome, the comeback wins to start the year. What was it? The Jets game where they look like the game's in control, then they have the blocked field goal for a touchdown. You're like, did they just blow this? And of course, the offense goes right down and scores again to seal that one. It was finally looked like it was going to be an easy win for them to start the year. But yeah, I just because of the degree of difficulty with all the injuries, I mean that is just a loaded list. And then as far as the units go, I think the offense, I'd probably give them a B, and just because of all the injuries, Bucky, the receivers, the offensive line, they had some really good moments earlier in the year. Haven't been as good the last couple weeks, but overall, I think it's been a pretty solid first 8 games given all the things that have happened. And then defensively, I almost went with a C minus, but I ended up doing a C just because of the last 2 weeks. I thought they've done pretty well. And I know Detroit scored 24, but Detroit's a really good team and a really good offense. And then the Saints, I know they're not any good, but when you play a team that's not any good, you should do what they did. And that's exactly, and so I have to give them credit for that. So I'm going to bump them to a C, but before the Saints game, I might have kept them at a C minus.
And I think the biggest thing that we all want to know is like when they are fully healthy, if that ever happens, are they going to be able to finish the season strong and play together and truly gel too? I mean, because you haven't been out there. I mean, we don't know we know what it could be potentially when they have everybody, but for some strange reason, a banged up Bucs team is finding a way to win. I mean, like now you don't want your defense giving up, what was that, 35 points to Seattle. I don't think you can win too many games giving that many points up, but they're finding a way to do it with what they have, and it's not pretty. But at the end of the day, in these next 8 weeks, you come out of this New England, Buffalo, Rams, as you said, at Buffalo, at the Rams, you can find yourself not being in first place. I don't care who's out there if you don't play well. Because you want to get your guys back, but when you get them back and you don't win or you don't play well, then what will we be talking about?
Right.
Well, and Jaron, you mentioned looking for silver linings, right? And I'll say this about getting those guys back. The silver lining that I'll find in that is, let's say, best case scenario, coming out of the bye, getting ready to face New England, the Bucs get Bucky and Godwin back. Now let's hope that they stay on the field, right? You get a couple of weeks further, now you add McMillan to the mix. Okay? Now those guys are all gelling. They're all working together. You get a couple more weeks down the road and you bring Mike Evans back into the mix. So it's not, I don't think it'll be as jarring just because it's not everybody all at once. You're getting 2 here, then 1, and you can gradually build up, that camaraderie, that chemistry and everything that you need to make a deep playoff run. So that's at least the way that I'm looking at it. Again, we're looking for the silver lining in the injury issues, but I think it'll be easier to transition when you're just getting one piece at a time rather than everybody all together.
Yeah. And then I think too, like defensively, I don't think people aren't talking enough about how they're top 5 in sacks. Okay. They're in the green as far as the turnover margin. So when you start to get away from like, okay, everybody's hurt, but how are they winning? It's stuff like that. It's defensive touchdowns, right? It's turnovers, because that could be a close game if there's no 4 turnovers and one of them was a score. So I think when you start looking at some of the things that we don't probably see that stand out, which is defense might not be statistically killing it in every category, but you have to earn the right to rush the passer. That means you have to stop the run. So when you can stop the run, getting guys to the quarterback and knocking the ball loose, the other team's offense isn't on the field very long either. So I think they're finding unconventional ways to win or make a play when it matters. And if they can continue to do that as they work the injured guys back in as they come back, I think the Bucs will be just fine. But they do have to keep doing what they did like to the Saints, which is don't give up big plays, don't let them in the end zone. Fine. If they're not a good team, do what you're supposed to do, take the ball away, score on defense, and get out of there. So, because when Baker, I think everything is going to be predicated on Baker being 100%.
Yeah, it's something that I saw on X earlier. Buccaneers are number 1 in the NFL in havoc, which is the percentage of plays that a defense gets a pressure, a tackle for loss, a forced fumble, an interception, or a pass breakup. Number 1 in the NFL, 42.8% of defensive plays ends in one of those categories. So yeah, you're 100% right, Marcus. The defense, while it does get criticized, and I know there are some people that want to see Hassan Reddick being Myles Garrett when that's not really what he's being asked to do. He's not going to put up the gaudy sack numbers because he's also great in run defense. He's also dropping in coverage, which has opened up things for some of the other guys. You know how Todd Bowles loves to play with the pressures coming from different areas. So yeah, the defense is really starting to come into its own. But as you said at the top of the show, we got to get the offense and the defense playing at that level at the same time and really impose their will on some other teams.
And for me, I think coming out of this bye week, it is important for them to go 2-1 in those 3 games. If they can go at least 2-1, I think they're in a really good spot because that's a tough 3-game stretch. But after that, you go Arizona, New Orleans, Atlanta at home. Then you go to Carolina, to Miami, and then Carolina at home to end the season. And Miami might have a whole new coach, you never know what's going to happen in that situation. They haven't been any good. So after that 3-game stretch, the schedule gets easier, and that's when some of these guys are supposed to be coming back. So if you can somehow go 2-1 in that 3-game stretch, I think you're in a really good spot. And I don't want to jinx anything, but it kind of feels like this team is very similar to the Oklahoma City Thunder in basketball. Because if people watched them last year, they were injured a lot throughout the season, but they kept winning. And then by the postseason, they were all healthy, and none of them got injured in the playoffs. And, of course, they went on to win the NBA championship. And I'm not saying that's like guaranteed what's going to happen here, but the teams that typically can navigate all the injuries and then get those guys back are the ones that can make big-time runs in the postseason.
The key that I learned watching this game, playing in this league, talking with guys about it is how fast can you get to 8 wins and to go 6-2, like, because they're not 2-6, there's not a lot of pressure right now.
Right.
And another thing to think about is how many teams can you say will still be in first place after the bye week, regardless of what happens in their own division? So you got to understand they put themselves, they've made lemonade out of these lemons. They've turned water into wine. You know what I mean? So I just feel like you're 6-2 in first place. After this weekend, you'll still be in first place, and then you'll heal up, and then you'll play. And I think 2-1 is very important. But for them to be 6-2 at this point of the season is advantageous when you look at the playoff picture if they're able to keep it going and get their guys back. Now, if they're 2-6, we're talking about something totally different.
We're already looking to the draft if it's 2-6. And Jaron, I'm with you 100%. If they can come out of the next 3 games 2-1, as long as one of those 2 wins has to be the Rams. If you're going to lose one of these games, lose to the Patriots or lose to the Bills. That game isn't going to matter. You've already lost to Detroit. You've already lost to Philadelphia. You cannot put yourself that far behind the 8 ball when it comes to playoff seed tiebreakers. You have got to beat the Rams in that game. I think that's probably the biggest must win left on the schedule because, like you said, after that, it opens up. You got the Cardinals when Simeon Rice is getting inducted into the Ring of Honor. Everybody's going to be hyped for that one. Yeah. You still get the Panthers twice. You still get the Falcons. You still get the Saints again. And you get the Miami Dolphins. That should be a breeze. So beat the Rams and you're golden.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this was a lot of fun, a little different for everyone out there. But yeah, we're going to be doing this every Tuesday. Well, some Mondays, but mostly every Tuesday. 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also do a post-game show. Everyone's going to be an hour. It's just a new thing. It's not taking anything away from what James is doing. He will still do his 5 shows a week and then obviously his post-game as well. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you later on this week. No post-game show, but we'll have another bye-week show for you. So don't miss that. But until next time, fire the cannons.